What's going on, guys? Chandler here. So this is going to be my new segment on my YouTube channel called First Listen Review that is taken from my $5 tier full album reactions. So I react to the entire album, and then at the very end I give my overall thoughts and initial thoughts and a score on the album as a whole. So again, if you do like what you see and want to support the channel going forward, head over to patreon.com/ChandlerBurtonEntertainment. This is exclusive to the $5 tier. Again, you get a full album reaction, review, and a whole bunch of other perks as well if you guys are interested. And again, there's always a link down below in the description and in the pinned comment. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoy the review, and thank you all so much for watching. Alright, my friends, so again, Born Through Fire with their debut album called Purify and Refine. I am very excited for this. Again, I'm just expecting to be like a As I Lay Dying 2.0 because, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, I have no idea what the state of As I Lay Dying is going to be. Again, I know, I believe his name's Josh. He went to Spirit Box, plays bass for them and sings for them, I believe. I don't know. I know the guitar players of it's just crazy what's been happening to this band, and so I don't know. Maybe this side project may become Tim Lambesis' like main thing. I don't know. We'll see. But I mean, I keep seeing updates on social media saying like, you know, As I Lay Dying's it's happening. So I'm very curious to see what's going to happen there. Definitely more nostalgic for As I Lay Dying. So I will listen to it once it comes out, but for what I've heard from this band, it just sounds like a As I Lay Dying, you know, 2.0, and so I'll probably like it. So I'm excited to see. So again, the only people in this band is Tim Lambesis, the vocalist, and then Joey Alcaron from Wolves at the Gate, which I had no idea that he was in that band. That's in this band. That's pretty cool. So it's just those two, and then Luke Holland occasionally does a couple of drums on the album, at least the ones that he's featured on. So, yeah, I mean, I'm excited to dive in. Just to let you all know as well here, the first song, Bone by Bone, also includes the intro song called Reintroduction. So, that's why the first song is like 7 minutes. It's also the intro track and the first track put together, and I have heard this song before. So, again, this won't be in the clip pull, but other than that, I'm excited to check it out with you guys here. So again, Born Through Fire, Purify, and Refine. It's about a 40-minute album. Let's go ahead and see what we have in store here in 3, 2, and 1.
A few moments later.
Alright, my friends. Well, to be honest, that was exactly what I thought it was going to be, which is honestly, that's never really a good thing. I guess it can be if you're a big fan, which I do love metalcore. I mean, you know me, I love me some good old-fashioned metalcore, but I had a feeling this wasn't gonna be any different than like As I Lay Dying, and that's probably the biggest fault for me. But when it comes to the music side of things, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really cool. Some really cool moments in there, some great riffs. So I'm excited to kind of dive in and talk about some of the things I liked and didn't like. So let's go ahead and dive into the first listen review, and that is coming up next. So stick around for that. Okay, my friends, let's go ahead and talk about Born Through Fire's debut album, Purify and Refine. We just got done jamming the entire thing. Overall, man, I thought this was actually a pretty decent album. It's not like the best metalcore album I've ever heard in my entire life, but for something that is familiar and something that I do enjoy, I did enjoy this album quite a bit. So let's go ahead and start with the pros, as always. Then we'll go into the cons, do my top 3 songs, and I'll give some overall thoughts and a score at the very end. So let's go ahead and talk about this album with a couple things that stuck out to me. Number one, I would say, I noticed this throughout the entire album, and this is a very consistent thing that I actually really enjoyed. They take these honestly, the riffs in this album, like, obviously, like, I'm not a guitar player by any means, but these riffs are nothing crazy. From what I'm seeing, of course. You know, I've seen, like, working with Mike and stuff, I've seen them put together, like, these riffs, but make them sound massive. Like, they take these riffs and these breakdowns, and they just make them hit so hard. I can't imagine how this is going to sound in my car. Like, I just hitting really extremely hard. So I thought that was really cool. I mean, again, like I feel like they know what they're doing when it comes to making the music, and they just know how to make it hit really hard. Even though it's familiar, it's still one of those things that still sounds really cool. So again, pro number 1, they take simple riffs and simple breakdowns and they just beef it up to like 1,000. I think they do a really good job of that. It sounds really, really cool. The riffs on this album are consistently very, very good. I would also say, like, you know, Tim is a very good vocalist still to this day. I don't want to bring any really controversy into this album because that's not what this is about. We all know what Tim did, and I actually got to kind of meet him once over like a video chat. I was in a video chat with a couple other people, and a lot of people were sharing their stories with Tim, and so I was able to kind of listen to him and kind of like, you know, see his face and say hi to him really quick. So that was kind of cool to meet him. I know a lot of people are still kind of on the fence about what he did, which is completely understandable. As I said, I don't want to bring any controversy into this review and reaction. I just want to talk about the music itself, and talk about the music itself, tying it back to Tim. Even after all these years, I mean, As I Lay Dying has been making music since I was like probably like in 7th, 8th grade, probably even younger, and so his consistency with his vocals is still really good. His enunciation is really good. His lyric writing is good. We'll talk about that kind of in the cons as well. I've always thought his lyrics are very clever. They're kind of on the nose, but they're like cleverly put on the nose, if that makes sense. So I thought he did a really good job on this album. Like, again, his vocals still to this day, years later, still sound fantastic. And I would say the last pro that I would give this album is that the songs are very well put together. Like, again, as I just mentioned, Tim has been doing this for so long. Wolves of the Gate's been around forever. And the songs that Luke Holland has done, he's been playing drums forever with Word Alive. Now he's doing it for Fallen in Reverse. Like, these guys know how to put good music together. Like, none of it feels like forced together. None of it feels choppy. None of it feels crowbarred. And these songs are very well structured. Again, familiar and typical, and maybe you can predict some of the things, but again, overall, the musicianship of these guys is really, really good. I don't know if what I'm going to say is going to sound controversial, but it's one of those things where, honestly, like, if you disagree with me or agree with me, that's completely fine. As I kept mentioning throughout the review, like, my biggest worry going into this album is that it's just going to sound like an As I Lay Dying 2.0, and that's exactly what this is. I mean, honestly, if I were to show my friend Miguel, if I were to show him this, he would think As I Lay Dying put out a new album. And so I think people are going to be like, you know, what's the point of doing a side project when it sounds exactly like your main project? For example, Left to Suffer, Taylor Barber, who is the vocalist of the band, really good vocalist, he has a side project called Phone Booth, and it sounds nothing like Left to Suffer. It is like pop, R&B, 80s influence type music. That's a side project. This just feels like a continuation of As I Lay Dying. And so when I hear the lyrics on this album, you know, their last album that they did, As I Lay Dying, Shaped by Fire, every single one of those songs is talking about how Tim was incarcerated and how he became, how he can overcome that being shaped by fire. Like, all the lyrics were generally the same thing about him making a mistake of what he did. And then on this album, it's the exact same thing. Like, pretty much all the lyrics are in regards to about, like, him, you know, being incarcerated and what happened to him, which I understand that's a big event in his life and that he wants to talk about it. But again, I just can't really tell the difference between the bands. Like, again, the riffs are really cool, but a lot of them just felt like As I Lay Dying 2.0, or the structures of the song. And it's like, you know, why are you calling this like a side project when it sounds just like a continuation? That's probably my biggest con with the album. Like, I just don't get the point of it. I did like the album, but again, I just don't really understand why this kind of happened. I'm not entirely sure. I would also say the singing on this album was not my favorite. I felt like a lot of it felt a little bit forced in there. Again, especially like with the production. The production was really hit or miss on this album for me here. There were some songs that were just beefed up, as I said, just really intense, really awesome. And then you have some other songs, like, again, like The Well, for example, where there's a good, pretty decent singing in there, but I just felt like the singing was really buried in the mix, which kind of shows like maybe they didn't have confidence in the singing vocals overall. So like they wanted to have it, but they just buried it so that people wouldn't really notice it. And I noticed it, and I just thought the singing was a little bit weak. There were some points on it where I was like, okay, it actually does sound pretty good. But overall, the singing felt a little bit forced for me. And again, the production was kind of a mixed bag where, again, sometimes it sounded fantastic. Sometimes it sounded kind of a little bit muffled. Sometimes it sounded a little bit quieter than other songs. So for me, the production was just a little bit hit or miss. So my top 3 favorite songs from this album would be number 1, Blood, Fire, and Pain. I know that was a single that came out well over a year ago, but that one, as I was saying, the riff is super simple on that, but dude, that song hits. That is a great metalcore song through and through. That song is absolutely terrific. I also really like Trapped Inside. There's a really cool part at the end where like I had that breakdown, which I expected, but then it got really like atmospheric at the very end with the breakdown. I don't know, maybe that was just me, but I listened to it again, and that last couple of like 30 seconds was like really, really cool. And like that one was a really sick song. I could see why they wanted to put that out before the album to kind of push that as a single, because it's a really, really cool song. So I really enjoyed that one as well. And then I actually really liked Walk Through the Fire. Again, that one definitely sounded like As I Lay Dying, but again, the riffs on that were so freaking sick. So again, those are my top 3 songs that stuck out to me on Born Through Fire's new album, Purify and Refine. So sometimes when I talk about my cons, I really feel like I'm trying to dig into the band, and I'm not really trying to do that. For me, I just get really passionate about music, and I just talk about the things that just really stick out to me. And I have to say, overall though, this album was pretty cool. I mean, it's cool to hear, because again, I do like As I Lay Dying, and I actually really like their last album, Shaped by Fire. I thought that was really cool. So I've been actually kind of aching for a little bit more, craving a little bit more for some more As I Lay Dying, and this kind of actually did fill the void for me a little bit. Again, it does have that typical, you know, those big riffs, you know, those big circle pit riffs and everything that As I Lay Dying does, but kind of like as a side project, I mean, I enjoyed it. I don't think it's as good as I Lay Dying, because again, I've been listening to them a little bit longer. Maybe it's nostalgia talking as well, because I've been listening to As I Lay Dying for so long. My friend Miguel got me into them like years ago, and I just really enjoy that band. Despite the controversy, what happened with Tim and stuff, I still enjoyed the music that As I Lay Dying puts out. With this one though, yeah, it was okay. I liked it. There's definitely a few songs I would probably add to my playlist, listen to on a consistent basis, especially if I'm going on like a walk or exercising or working out. But overall, man, yeah, this just felt like an As I Lay Dying 2.0. But at the same time, if it's gonna fill the void until the next As I Lay Dying album, which I hope it does happen, I'm pretty satisfied with it. I'm going to give Born Through Fire's brand new album, Purify and Refine, a 7 out of 10. Good for what it is, but definitely familiar. We all know what the music sounds like. So again, good, but familiar.